Today I will be focusing in on manufacturing processes specifically. So thank you for joining us today. And if there's any questions, again, feel free to pop those into the question and answer panel, and we'll get those answered at the end of this presentation. So just a little history on Radley. We are a privately held company. We've been around since 1974, and we've been doing barcoding and RFID for as long as I can remember. I've actually been with the company for 21 years. We have over 600 customers and installations globally in over 30 countries, and we deal with people in pretty much every vertical industry out there. Our platform is designed to meet a lot of different unique requirements of all of our customers. So we are a full solution provider. We focus in on providing a software solution, and then we partner with other companies to provide hardware as part of our solution, to provide everything that's needed for every component from hardware, software, and integration into a ERP system. So we have a lot of different modules and a lot of different interactions that we can provide to help get data into the system, whether it's coming from machines or RFID or barcoding. All that is designed to integrate with our platform and update an ERP system. So I'm going to go into a couple of different scenarios that we've had. So the first one that I'm going to cover is a designer and builder of high-quality workplace furniture. They're located in the Midwest, and they have a lot of custom detailed products. So one of the issues that they were having is they create kits that belong together that during the work in process stages, the kits would get separated and then they would not be put back together. So they wanted to make sure that their kits, once they were done with certain work in process stages, that they got put back together, and if there was anything missing from a kit, they would get notified when it got moved to the next operation. So something was stranded, basically. And they also were missing visibility to all their different components where they were located at each stage of tracking. So everything from rework and scrap, if something was left behind, they wanted to be able to catch it back up with the master kit when everything needed to be assembled at the final stages. So what we were doing, what we do for them is we help them keep those WIP components together, and we track each operation. So there's several choke points in their operations where inventory just naturally travels through from one operation to the next. And we can also verify that the operations are happening in the exact order that they need to be happening in. So we are verifying that all the kit components are together, that they're traveling in the correct sequence based on those RFID reads that we're doing at the different various choke points that they're traveling through. And then if anything is missing, we created alerts that will happen so that somebody is notified that there's something that's out of order or missing from a kit. So there's also several inquiries that they can use and dashboards that they can utilize to view all those details at any point in time. And so it's giving them the ability to see where everything's at, giving them the ability to save a lot of time and money because they have that perfect view of accuracy of their operations. The next customer story I want to talk about is a manufacturer of critical cleaning products and clean room supplies. They're having issues with a lot of their products look the same. So when they're putting a product in a box, to the user, it looked correct because it's just a white cloth, for example. But the part number might be different and the actual chemicals that are applied to the product might be different. So therefore, it's a different part number. So what we, actually let me finish going through all their issues. So wrong product going into a box, and then when they came to palletizing, they were accidentally putting the wrong boxes or containers onto a specific pallet for a customer. So, and in fact, the wrong product was being shipped to that customer. So by putting RFID tags on the bags of product, so every bag of white towels, for example, has an RFID tag that specifically says what product it is, and by then also tracking the box that's meant for a specific customer and knowing what product is meant to be in it, when a bag goes through a pass-over of an RFID reader and gets placed into that box, we can verify that the right product gets put into the correct box. So therefore, fixing their issue of wrong products going into the boxes. We also ensured that the proper quantity went into each box. So as soon as, for example, a 40-bag box was completed, an alert would turn on letting them know, a green light would turn on letting them know that a box is complete. And now they can then down the line and have it go to the labeler. And if a bag of product got passed through the RFID reader and it was the wrong inventory that was not supposed to go into that box, a red light would turn on so that they would get notified immediately that they just scanned the wrong product. For their palletizing stations, we ensured, one, proper case count. So when they're staging a pallet, as each case went onto a pallet, we ensured it was the proper pallet or proper case for the pallet, and also made sure that the right case count went on the pallet. So for them, accurate box counts, accurate inventory for each customer equals satisfied customers. So this next one is the Sophisticated American Boat Builder. They have very similar issues to a lot of our other customers where they're losing track of their work in process. So again, there's a lot of just miscellaneous pieces that have to go together to create a boat. So when you misplace any of these pieces that are meant for a specific boat, people end up doing unnecessary rework that doesn't necessarily have to happen, or they just end up sending the parts up through production, and then they don't find out until later that a part was missing, and then they have to go spend time trying to find that piece later. Again, unable to see the routing steps and what is where, rework and scrap not being tracked well, they were misplacing rework as well. So as a result, we are tracking all their work in process and their rework. So when products get moved, we know what is where. For this particular customer, their work in process would go through multiple stages at different points, and then they did a sorting at one point where they would put together their kit, and that would go through to their final production step. So they might have a whole bunch of different pieces being edge banded and cut and different steps like that. And once all those steps got completed, they wanted to kind of regroup and make sure that all the parts were there for their kit. So again, we're placing RFID readers next to each workstation. So if something is going over the edge bander, we track that particular piece so we know that it's there. And then at the kit grouping section, they are making sure that every single component that is meant for that particular work order is grouped together to be traveled to the next phase of manufacturing. So they have inquiries that they help see the work in process details, and then we also do direct ERP integration. So giving them that visibility to what is where, giving them a savings of time so they don't have to spend time looking for something. If something is being reworked, going back and actually telling them what stage of rework it's in so that they can pull that back together with the end group instead of having to rework, and not having every step catch up. So again, I have another office furniture manufacturer. A lot of these stories end up sounding very similar because honestly, a lot of their processes have a lot of the same steps. And when ERPs don't capture precise movements in work in process, and we can do that seamlessly with RFID, it makes their lives a lot easier. So sometimes ERPs are only tracking milestone operations, and it's relying on a person to actually input that information. RFID takes that out of the equation and makes it seamless for everything to happen and everybody to have visibility to what they need to have. So again, products being misplaced, no visibility to individual routing steps and knowing what is where, lack of visibility of the rework and the scrap processes, and products that should be grouped together are sometimes scattered, or some of their issues that they're having. So again, with our solution, we actually have an IntelliLabel solution that allows us to tie RFID data to all the different ERP data that's required. So we can track a work order, a part number, a lot number, and all those different attributes and tie it to an RFID tag so that when something is being passed over a router table or something is going through a cutting process, when we read that RFID tag, we know exactly what it is and where it's at in the process. So being able to track all those different steps and making sure that they're done in the right sequence gives everybody that visibility that they're lacking right now. So again, we have a lot of different ERPs that we're integrating with, and by giving them all those details of what is where, it's giving them a lot of saved time and accuracy in their operations. So considerations for RFID for work and process tracking. Does your workflow have natural choke points that can be used for tracking work in process? Or what types of products will you be applying RFID labels to? Are there any metal products or carts that parts are being on that we need to create maybe a special label? There's labels that actually isolate themselves against metal so that they can be read on metal. And then also any size limitations to consider for labeling. Does the label need to be removable? So a lot of our customers that are doing manufacturing in furniture, those labels sometimes need to be removable. So we need to make sure that we get the proper adhesive so that it does stick throughout the process, but then it can be removed at the end. Again, with our solution for containerization and kitting, our software is designed to not only track RFID tags and all the attributes to that tag, but it allows us to build up multiple relationships so we can keep track of pallet and container relationships and track individual elements associated with each item or box. So here's just some examples, tracking a part, tracking a container, and then even tracking a truck. You can even create a relationship between the truck as well. So our solution is really making sure that you get everything that you need to fix your issues, but then we're also extending that into the ERP system and into our solution so that you have that middleware piece that a lot of people are missing with just RFID tags. So you have to have a solution behind the RFID tags to make it work for you, and that's what Radley provides. We want to make sure that we give you that full ability to collect the data, analyze the data, and update those back-end applications. So I am completed here. If there's any questions, Mark, I will have you feed those to me.
Okay. Thank you, Brandy. Folks, you can click on the question mark in the tool on the left side of your screen, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. Are you aware of any existing implementations where RFID directly enables workflow automation, such as physical movements in the factory, automatically triggering transactions within other systems integrated with the RFID solution?
Yes, you can definitely trigger transactions occurring automatically, so you can create your manufacturing completions, you can do your work in process and operation moves. All those different types of transactions are things that we can trigger with our solution that is directly integrated to your ERP system.
Okay. Were fixed readers or handheld readers used to track the work in process as it traveled from one operation to the next? Have you ever used ceiling-mounted readers to see where WIP is located on the floor?
Yeah, so a lot of the areas that we're talking about, there's fixed readers that are sometimes mounted below a table even, or alongside of a specific table so that when an item passes by it, it gets read. There are some solutions where we've done ceiling mounts where it has to basically just sense something is in the specific area. So a lot of that comes down to fine-tuning of those readers to know exactly what your read radius is that you want to work with and fine-tuning what hardware goes with what scenario.
Okay. Any reason why you used RFID over barcodes?
So the main reason for using RFID is because the human element is basically taken out of the equation. As we all know, humans are prone to making mistakes, and sometimes we just forget to do things. So when you're removing that element and things just naturally pass and get read, that makes it so that you don't have to worry about scanning and doing other things by reading barcodes and having a user actually do it. All you're relying on is the person that's doing their day-to-day job, and then the RFID reads happen automatically.
Okay. Are you aware of any existing use cases where the RFID solution has been integrated with Siemens Team Center?
I have not had any integrations with Siemens Team Center, but that doesn't mean that we can't do it. Usually anything like that we take on as a funded development project where we're implementing with a different system. So we'd be happy to entertain that.
Okay. Next question. Sorry, I'm just... how do you manage RFID readers on a manufacturing floor where space may be tight between different workstations?
So in all those events where your spacing might be tight, you really have to rely on the fine-tuning of the reader itself to tie down the area that's being read. So we lower the power on the readers specifically so that they're only going to read what's passing right over them.
Okay. Will details of the Radley applications be available? I would like to know specifically where active and passive were utilized.
So any information can be emailed, or if you have any questions like that, you can email me directly or contact us through RFID Live. But we typically use passive RFID technology just because of the way that most of our customers like to implement. It's a lot less expensive, and for what they're doing, it's the only thing that's really required to this point.
Okay. Do you have recommendations for addressing reading multiple tags stacked on one another? We are tagging the traveler paperwork for each piece and could have 20 packages stacked.
Yeah, we have a lot of our scenarios that we've actually tested have literally wood boards piled on top of each other, and we can read those. So it really is all dependent on the RFID tag that we're utilizing and the RFID reader. So we make sure that we do a lot of testing ahead of time to ensure the readability of the scenario so that we get you the proper equipment and the proper tags to get the job done.
Okay. We have a project for monitoring fatigue in oil pipelines. We're using RFID sensors like the one Farsons has, but we are looking for a company to design antennas to work on the pipeline. I guess the question
that one
is...
I would probably, we'd probably want to get together with one of our hardware partners to talk about that one in greater detail, but I'd be happy to get an email from you and we can talk about that in more offline.
Okay. Generic question. The applications and implementations we see now are basically the same as talked about since 2003 timeframe. What is new in RFID and how does it relate to analytics, AI, and the fact that we can now collect and store data and analyze it much more effectively today?
So a lot of the technology has changed in the RFID tags themselves. So the ability to read tags and partner them with the right readers, I think, is a lot better, and you can power down things and adjust the power settings a lot more to get the configuration the way that you need it. I would say that also the cost has come down quite a lot since 2003, so that's the other biggest player, is that this is becoming a bigger player in the market because the cost isn't as high as it used to be.
Okay. During WIP at production line, always space constraints for mounting with fixed rears. How do we solve this issue?
I guess that would probably take a little bit more conversation to know exactly the issues that they're having and what kind of space constraints they're having. So we can take that offline.
Okay. How frequently does RFID Solutions fail considering a change in the environment or process, and how do we avoid that?
I don't have an exact failure rate, but our goal is to try to provide 99.9% read rates at all times. If there's specifically things that change, like new layouts being created and things like that, that might interfere, it's always good to have a testing scenario that gets done to make sure that the process that has been changed doesn't change or affect the read rates of the current environment.
Right, okay. Have you seen any use cases where the RFID tag is inserted during manufacturing and then subjected to high temperature and pressure?
Yeah, we've had a couple of scenarios where there was requirements for some high temperature. I know that there's tags out there that can live through that process. It's just a matter of finding you the right tags that can help you with that.
Okay. With the pandemic, there are many specimen tubes to test and track. What are your thoughts on placing RFID labels on these?
If you're talking about placing RFID tags on containers to track, I think that's definitely a use case that you can do. Again, it comes down to whether you're reading those RFID tags when it's leaving the point and going to another point and then reading it again at the point of receipt. So as long as you have solutions that can take that information and read it from both sides, I think it's a good solution.
Last question. Have you seen any cases where steel coil manufacturing is tracking work in process?
I have not specifically in my scenarios, but I can see how that could be a something that could be tracked, especially if you use the on-metal read tags and maybe even do the RFID on the coil itself.
Okay. Brandy, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for a great presentation.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.